You know this silence. It's not like the peaceful quiet that brings calm. It rings, it presses, it has weight, falling on your shoulders and bending your soul. It is a man's silence. It changes the physics of space. The air becomes dense and sticky, the light in the room dims, and every object seems to absorb the cold, becoming a co-conspirator in this torment. It is a wall he has erected between you, cold, smooth, and seemingly impenetrable. And at that moment, a primal anxiety awakens inside you. An instinct that screams, do something, ask, demand, cry, melt this ice before it freezes all that's alive. You start going over scenarios, words, approaches in your head. Your mind turns into a frantic beehive, thousands of thought bees buzzing in panic. What did I do wrong? He doesn't love me anymore. Is this the end? You're ready to do anything, just to break this vacuum silence because it feels like a small death. The death of closeness, the death of connection, the death of your significance to him. But stop. Take a deep breath. What I will say now goes against everything you've been taught and all your impulses. What Carl Jung discovered, exploring the darkest and deepest corners of the human psyche, sounds like a paradox, but in it lies the greatest power. When a man goes silent, the most powerful thing you can do is nothing. No, this isn't about ignoring, not about cold revenge, not about playing who will stay silent longer. It's something much deeper. It is a supreme act of psychological magic that shifts the balance of power, not on the surface, but at the very core of your relationship. Your response, silent but of a completely different quality, is not a wall, it is a mirror. And what the man sees in that mirror will not only make him speak again, it will make him panic at the thought of losing you. Jung taught that most of our suffering in relationships comes from unconscious projections. When a man falls silent, often without even realizing it, he triggers a powerful psychological mechanism. He projects onto you his shadow, his fear, his immaturity, his anger. And your immediate reaction, your anxiety, your urge to fix everything, is unconscious agreement to accept that projection. You become the container for his chaos. And he feels that. He feels his power. His silence works. But when you respond with your own conscious, calm, and full silence, you do the unthinkable. You refuse to accept the projection. You return it to him. And that's when true transformation begins. You cease being the object of his manipulation and become the subject of your own power. This is a journey inward, requiring courage, but the result will exceed all expectations. You won't just get his attention back, you'll get yourself back. And it is this woman who has reclaimed herself that he will fear losing more than anything else in the world. Let's break down step by step what this action, your silence, actually is and why it holds such devastating power. First, silence as the return of the energetic center. When he goes silent, where does all your energy go? Every last drop? Right, toward him. You mentally dialogue with him, analyze his behavior, scan his mood, try to guess his thoughts. You become a psychological satellite orbiting his dark, silent planet. Jung would call this a total loss of psychic energy, libido flowing from your center into external void. You deplete yourself, feeding his silence with your attention. You're like a city that shuts off electricity to its homes, hospitals, and schools to light up one empty, cold monument of his resentment. Your first task is an act of energetic sovereignty. Your silence must begin with a physical and mental turn inward. This is not just an action, it's a ritual. Stop looking at him, stop waiting. Take a book, not for show, but as a plunge into a different world, richer and more interesting than his silent prison. Turn on music that fills your soul, not headphones to block out his silence. Do something that brings genuine, not forced, joy. It could be something simple. Make tea, but not just tea. Make it a ceremony. Inhale the herb's aroma. Feel the cup's warmth in your hands. Sense the heat filling you from within. Focus on that sensation. Say to yourself, I return my energy to myself. I fill myself, not his void. I unplug the charger from him and connect it to my heart. This isn't a game. It's a redirection of flow. Jung said, the self, our true I, is always within us. But in moments of anxiety, our frightened ego looks for support outside. At this moment, you consciously refuse to seek support in him and return to yourself. You tell the universe and your unconscious, my center is here, within me. My state doesn't depend on his mood. My compass now points not to his pole, but to my own inner north. What does the man feel? At first, power. His ego basks in it. She's suffering. She noticed. I matter. The world revolves around my resentment. He awaits the first questioning glance, the first tentative touch. But it doesn't come. An hour passes. He sees you absorbed in reading, or hears you softly humming while going about your tasks. His initial confidence turns into confusion. He's like an actor stepping on stage for his grand monologue, only to find the audience calmly reading newspapers. His dramatic pause loses its meaning. The energetic connection, where he was the vampire and you the donor, breaks. He unconsciously reaches for the usual channel of energy, but finds emptiness. He no longer receives your energy, and in that void, he starts feeling not power, but his own insignificance and loneliness. He realizes that he's not standing center stage in the spotlight of your attention, but alone in a dark, empty hall, and that cold goes straight to the bone. Second, silence as an act of boundary setting. Your attempts to make him talk, your anxiety, these are signals to him. My emotional state is in your hands. You can hurt me with your silence, and I will react. My boundaries are permeable to your mood. In essence, you hand him the remote control to your well-being. Your soul becomes a hallway for his bad moods, a place where he can dump his emotional trash without asking. Conscious silence is the most powerful, non-verbal way to set boundaries. It's not a wall built out of resentment. It's the declaration that your inner space is sovereign territory. Your silence says, without words, you can be in any emotional state. That's your right. But you don't have the right to destroy mine. My inner peace, my harmony, my calm are not bargaining chips in your games. This is where my territory begins. An entry with manipulation is forbidden. This is not aggression. It's the quiet sound of a lock clicking shut on the door of your inner sanctuary. It is the declaration of independence of your emotional republic. Jung introduced the concept of the persona, the social mask we wear. Many women carry the persona of the understanding one, the forgiving one, the savior, the one who smooths the sharp edges, takes blame upon herself just to preserve peace. This mask seems noble, but in fact it's born of fear. Fear of conflict, fear of being rejected. Your silence is the conscious refusal of this worn-out persona. You no longer save him from his own feelings. You let him sit alone with what he's created. This creates cognitive dissonance in a man. The script is broken. He presses the familiar buttons. I go silent, she'll come running, and nothing happens. He encounters an invisible but very real boundary. He feels that the woman next to him has suddenly grown a spine of steel. She is no longer the soft clay he could mold into guilt. She is a formed, whole person. He's like someone used to pushing a soft, yielding door, and now hits a force field. The first push brings confusion. The second, stronger one, irritation. The third, realization. The rules have changed, and this person cannot be pressured. She can only be respected or lost. The fear of losing control over you transforms into a fear of losing you as a person, someone far stronger and deeper than he imagined. Third, silence as a meeting with your own shadow. Why is his silence so torturous to you? Because it activates your shadow. The shadow, according to Jung, is not just evil. It's a repository of everything we reject in ourselves, everything we consider unworthy. The fear of being abandoned, the sense of worthlessness, childhood wounds, burning, anger. When he goes silent, all these shadowy figures take the stage and begin to torment you from within. They push you toward rash actions, sending angry messages, begging to talk, throwing a tantrum. You try to silence this internal chorus through external action. But the path of power lies not in action, but in witnessing. Your silence is not for him, it's for yourself. It creates space to meet your shadow. Instead of spilling your emotions onto him, you turn to face them. Sit in stillness, close your eyes, and allow these feelings to exist. Practice what Jung called active imagination. Ask your fear, what do you look like? What do you want to? Tell me. Give it a voice. Perhaps it will speak with the voice of a small, frightened girl inside you. Don't push her away. Embrace her mentally. Say, I'm grown now. I can handle this. I won't abandon you. Do the same with anger. Let it arise as energy, as fire within. Feel its power, but don't let it consume you. Acknowledge its right to exist. This anger is your protector, your guardian of boundaries who's simply tired of being ignored. Speak to your hurt. Let it cry, but don't drown in its tears. Find out which unmet need it's signaling. Perhaps a need for respect or for recognition. This is what Jung called the integration of the shadow. You stop being its slave and become its master. You don't suppress these emotions, nor do you act them out. You recognize, accept, and transform them. And a miracle happens. As soon as a shadow emotion is acknowledged and embraced, it loses its destructive power. Your fear of abandonment becomes an awareness of your ability to be alone. Your anger becomes pure energy to defend your boundaries. Your hurt transforms into a clear understanding of your needs. The man, in turn, intuitively senses this monumental inner work. He feels that your silence is not emptiness, but fullness. You no longer vibrate with anxiety or need. You begin to radiate calm, concentrated power. He expected to see a victim, but sees a priestess, performing a sacred ritual within herself. This mystery, this depth, this unpredictability terrify him and draw him in all the more. He realizes he's no longer dealing with a frightened girl, but with a woman who has embraced her dark side and become whole. And he understands that his primitive manipulations are powerless against such depth. Fourth, silence as the dissolution of his anima projection. Inside every man, as Jung taught, lives the anima, his unconscious image of the feminine, shaped largely in childhood by his mother or other significant women. Very often, the immature man projects the archetype of the great mother onto his partner, the one who always understands, forgives, accepts him unconditionally, anticipates his desires, and cares for his comfort, even at the cost of her own. His silence is often a childish whim, a test. Will my mommy fuss over me if I pout? Will she guess what I want and apologize even if she's not at fault? Every time you begin to fuss, you affirm this projection. You accept the role of the mother to an adult man. You feed his immaturity with your care. Your conscious silence is a radical refusal of that role. You non-verbally declare, I'm not your mother. I am a woman. I am your equal partner. I'm not here to serve your childhood wounds and whims. You are a grown man, and you are responsible for your own emotions and behavior. This is a shock to his unconscious. The projection, encountering your calm lack of reaction, finds no object and bounces back to him. It's like he's been watching a movie on a screen his whole life, and now the screen has been taken away and the projector's beam hits him in the eyes, forcing him to see not the film, but the source of the light itself, his own neediness, his own immaturity. He is forced, maybe for the first time, to see you not as a function, caring mommy, but as a separate, uncontrollable being. He looked for the archetype of Demeter, the nurturing mother, and found Artemis, independent, self-sufficient, walking her own forest paths. This shift in archetypes generates real respect. He begins to see you not as a convenient object for fulfilling his needs, but as a mysterious, strong, autonomous woman. One who should not be trained with silence, but won through actions. One whose attention is not owed, but a privilege. And the fear of losing a mommy is replaced by a much greater fear. The fear of losing an equal, desirable, and unpredictable woman. Fifth, silence as the creation of a vacuum that demands to be filled. Nature abhors a vacuum. In relationships, this law is infallible. Usually, when he goes silent, you fill the resulting void with your anxiety, your words, your actions. You, essentially, do all the work for him. You keep the dysfunctional system alive. You become the air he sucks out of the room, and you keep pumping it back in, so he has something to breathe. When you go silent in return, not out of resentment, but out of fullness, you create a real vacuum. You remove your energy from the equation, and this vacuum starts to pull. The man, left alone in the ringing emptiness without your reaction, begins to feel unbearable discomfort. The silence he created as a weapon now turns against him. It's no longer filled with your emotions. It is filled with his own fears, his own guilt, his own unanswered questions. His inner monologue, which used to come at you as criticism, now turns inward. Why is she quiet? Did I go too far? What if she doesn't care anymore? What if she realized she's better off without me? This internal voice grows louder and more tormenting, because there's no one to unload it on. Jung spoke of the psyche's drive toward equilibrium. By creating this vacuum, you break the balance he was used to, where he was the silent god, and you the bustling worshipper. Now he's out of balance. And to restore equilibrium, the psyche pushes him to act. Now he must do something. Now he must fill the vacuum. Now he must break the silence. He might do it clumsily. He might try to provoke you into a fight. Why aren't you talking to me? Trying to return to the familiar script where he is the victim of your coldness. But if you stay steady and remain in your calm, observant silence, simply replying, "I don't see the point in talking when you're closed," he'll have to go further. He'll have to speak, truly speak, not to manipulate, but to restore the connection he himself destroyed. Because staying in this vacuum, alone with the reflection of his own wrongness, becomes psychologically unbearable. He starts to understand that his silence risks not just a quarrel, but the loss of the very axis around which he thought his world revolved. Sixth, silence as a test of truth. Think for a moment, what do you really fear when he goes silent? You fear it's the end, that his silence means he no longer loves you. Your conscious, calm silence is the most honest test of whether your relationship has a foundation. Jung taught that healthy relationships are only possible between two whole, individuated people. If your bond can be broken by a period of silence, then it was based not on love and respect, but on codependency, fear, and manipulation. Your silence, your peaceful return to yourself, is a litmus test. It's an act of faith in yourself and in life. You tell the universe, "I'm ready to accept any outcome that is true to my soul's path." Jung would call this a trust in the individuation process, allowing life to strip away the false and leave only the genuine. A mature man who loves you, when faced with your quiet dignity, will not endure the pause for long. He will see that he's causing you pain and find the strength and the words to make it right. He will see in your silence not an attack, but a signal that he crossed a line. He will come and say, "I'm sorry, I was wrong. Let's talk." His fear of losing you will be rooted in the value of your connection, in the understanding that he's hurting not just a woman, but a part of his own soul. An immature, selfish, or unloving man, a narcissist or manipulator, won't be able, to bear your silence for a different reason. He'll be furious that his control tactic no longer works. He may accuse you of being cold, cruel. You're heartless. He may escalate, pack his bags, or flirt with other women in front of you. Or in the end, he might simply disappear, off to find a new, more compliant energy source. And in that, as Jung would say, lies the greatest liberation. Your silence filters out what is not true. It acts like a surgeon's scalpel, removing diseased tissue so the organism can live. It will either take your relationship to a new level of maturity and honesty, or it will end it painlessly, because you've already reclaimed yourself, freeing you from a toxic bond. In either outcome, you win. You either gain a partner who can respect you, or you gain freedom. And the man who realizes he could lose you for real, not as part of a game, but in reality, experiences not just fear, but existential terror. The terror of losing something real, alive, and authentic. 7th, silence as the birth of a new you. The most important outcome of this process is not his reaction. It is your transformation. While you were silent for him, you were working for yourself. You met your shadow. You reclaimed your energy. You stepped out of the victim role. You found your center. You became whole. And this new woman, calm, self-sufficient, with a quiet smile and a deep gaze, knowing her worth, is the very result he feared and longed for at once. He started his game with one woman, anxious, dependent, predictable. But at the end of the game, turning around, he sees someone entirely different, a queen. Someone whose world doesn't revolve around him. Someone who is happy on her own. Someone who doesn't need him, but might choose to be with him if he proves worthy. She is like a phoenix, not just surviving the fire of his silence, but being reborn in it, stronger and more beautiful than before. Jung said the ultimate goal of individuation is to become who you truly are. Your silence is the catalyst for this process. It is the cocoon in which the caterpillar victim dies and the butterfly queen is born. You notice how your walk changes, smoother, more assured. You hear how your voice changes, deeper, more velvety. You see in the mirror how your gaze changes, clear, piercing, free from old anxiety. You start to treasure solitude, not as punishment, but as a resource, a sacred time for communion with yourself. And the man's fear of losing you reaches its peak, because now he fears not losing a convenient partner, but losing a dream woman, a woman who radiates dignity, power, and freedom, a woman whose very presence makes him better, challenges him to grow. He instinctively feels that you've grown, and he hasn't. And his greatest fear now is not your anger, but your calm, kind indifference. The fear that you'll simply continue on your path, leaving him behind with his outdated games. And his silence becomes not his weapon, but his biggest mistake. A mistake he'll be willing to pay anything to undo, if only you let him remain in the light of your new dazzling radiance. So next time he withdraws into that icy silence, remember, your power is not in your words. Your power is in your silence, but not in empty, resentful silence, in full, wise, transforming silence. The silence that won't break him, but will break his illusion of control over you. The silence that won't build a wall between you, but a temple within you. And into that temple, he will want to enter, not as a master, but as a humble pilgrim, afraid to lose what has become his sacred treasure.